Hey everybody, on this episode of It's Just Bodybuilding, we've got special guest Kuba Cielen. So remember, leave your comments, leave your thoughts, and leave questions for our next episode right underneath here. That's the best way to get your questions answered.
It's not even a better way, it's easier. It's easier to do more sets. It's easier not to go to failure. That's honestly, I think, the difference. And the biggest difference now, it's like, if you was to step in a gym 3-4 years ago, right, at peak times, you would probably have 40 people in there getting after it, right? You step in the gym now at a peak time, you've probably got double that. Now,
right.
One thing we have to accept is like, not everybody likes to train hard. Not everybody can train hard. And not everybody can train hard consistently because it's not easy. It's like, it's not easy to commit to a single exercise and know that, right, you're probably going to get to a point where it's going to hurt and it's probably going to get a little bit scary to try and continue to progress in that set, right?
I think I heard someone say that like an announcer at a show butchered your name and you were like irritated. I thought that was you. I can't remember.
Yeah, that will have been me because the amount of times I've told him as well, like, look, that's how we say it. And it's the first name that always gets me. It's like people that know me always get it right. And then people that don't, they're always like Cuba. And
Cuba.
The amount of times I hear it in the gym as well, it's like, I almost like get, stop that now.
If it was a C, I would say Cuba
for sure.
But
I
it's
would
a K,
too.
so I was like, I don't know why. I always said Cuba, so I was getting that right. Okay,
Kuba Cielen. All right.
Yeah.
That'll do.
Okay, here we are. We're recording. Scott's always rolling anyway, so he catches all the good stuff. And a lot of times the best stuff comes before the intro. It's Just Bodybuilding. Welcome back to another show. And we have a guest today. Do I dare say the name? Kuba Cielen. We were just talking about the right way to say his name. Kuba Cielen from the UK. Good to have you on the show, buddy.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. It's definitely a little bit of an honour because I've been a fan of the show for a long time, and obviously Dusty and Ron have been legends in the sport. So the real ones, the guys that have been into it for long enough, will definitely know of both of you guys. And obviously Scott yourself, you've been around for a long time as well, but obviously different side of things. So I'm going to have to give the guys a little bit more credit here just for the influences that they've always had.
Hell
so
yeah.
Scott, you've been great when it comes to the podcast side of things, but obviously these two guys have been
so what you're telling me is
also legends in the I would say British culture in bodybuilding as well.
So what you're telling me is if we all were in the gym together, I'm probably the guy who would lift the least, which it is true. There is that. So
no, not anymore. Yeah. I think what he's actually saying is he's giving us credit for how long we've been around and how we know what not to do. Whereas we know what not to do. That's what we're the masters at. And Scott is actually the educator here. Scott's the informer.
Well, I just bring you guys. I'm here to bring you guys because you guys do have some great information, and I'm glad we could finally get you on, man. Like this has been. People don't know it behind the scenes. We've been trying to figure out, like, get you on a show forever now. So I'm grateful that we could finally have this conversation.
Yeah, and it's a lot more fun for us to have people on that watch the show and kind of know how we are. It makes it a lot of fun and really easy. So of course, Scott McNally, Dusty Hanshaw. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and.
Oh, Dusty's got his mic off.
Oh, Dusty's mic was off on that.
Dropped the ball. Oh man,
we had a silent ring the bell.
Still off. You're still off. Dusty broke everything now.
Look what happened.
We lost Dusty.
Maybe he was yelling at his dogs. There we go. That's what
he might have been yelling at his dogs. You never know with the dogs.
So we got to ring the bell
with sound.
There we go.
Yeah, I need an and ring the bell.
There you go.
There we go. And also remember, Mutant sponsors the show. They take care of us. They keep us going. So hit up IamMutant.com and use your code Dusty20 or Big Run 20. but you don't have to use it one.
Or Scott 105, where you get it for free.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
pay you $5 for shipping.
Yeah, they actually pay you $5 to use the code Scott 105. And remember, Think Big Bodybuilding has a Patreon, and your $2 or $5 go towards helping Scott, with his dream holiday plans.
Yeah, of making the show. I appreciate everybody who's helping chip in. It's a huge help.
Yeah. Okay, Kuba, we're gonna jump right into it. Tell us why you like to be naked so much.
Exactly.
Do you know what?
We thought for sure you might be naked when we brought you on.
Speaking to Jamie, haven't you? Right.
Okay, since you knew exactly where that came from, I'll let you tell the story.
As Jamie told you about the first time.
He told me like a handful of stories where you were naked.
As he told you the first time he ever came to my house. Oh. Right, so for some reason I've always been the same since I was a kid. I don't like clothes. I don't like wearing clothes. So when I get home, it's like the first thing I do, obviously I'm sitting here talking to you guys, so I'm clothed. But the first thing I genuinely do is like, everything just comes off. So I like to, the wife doesn't mind. She's used to it now. But the first time Jamie came round, I literally kind of forgot myself. I was like, yeah, come in, pal. Doors open. He walked in and I was pretty much nude. And he was like, well, this is new. It's like, Jamie's a little bit, he's a giant, but he's a gentle giant. So it was like, I've never seen anyone as sheepish in my life. And I was just, after about 30 minutes of me sitting there naked, he did get used to it. So that was fine. That was like the first
30 minutes?
Pardon?
I like that you didn't decide to go get dressed. You were like, figure it out.
Oh, this is what I do.
Yeah, my favorite part of that story is the 30 minutes part.
Yeah.
That's
house,
that's
my
the
rules.
best
After 30 minutes, he got comfortable.
So how were you sitting? Like, paint the picture. Like, are you sitting there like are you on the couch with one leg up? Like, how
He's in the corner. Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's. I wish I could say I was lying as well, but I'm actually not. That was exactly how I sat on my couch, and he was like, he was sat at the end of this couch, 340 pounds at the time as well, like looking around, like almost like a scared cat. I'm like, yeah. Dude, you're 340 pounds. Come on, behave like you're a band.
Is he waiting for a hidden camera or something? That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah.
Waiting for some joke.
You'd have to zoom in pretty hard on that. So
Just no fucks.
Love it.
That's okay. Yeah, we talked to a few people, said what should we ask him about? And that was the first thing Jamie said. He said the guy gets massages naked and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, my physio guy's used to it as well. Yeah, he does. Yeah. He's gets paid enough, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point in using the little towel? We're all men.
Yeah. So no sock in the spray tan booth. No sock in the spray tan booth then for you. You don't even know fucks, eh? Okay.
That's amazing.
That's a confident guy. Even with all that ice cold spray tan flying around.
Yeah.
No worries in the world, that stuff, you know how that is. You're standing there getting blasted. Oh yeah.
Listen, I think by that time, I don't think anybody cares by that moment. I think everyone's just like, right, let's get on stage and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. Once you got a half a diazide in you, all bets are off. You're not winning any contests.
Unless you're, what's his name, Bo Lewis? Is it Bo Lewis?
Yes, Bo.
Yeah.
Legend of the sport now.
The unspoken legend.
Yeah.
Pre-judging at Olympia, everyone just like sat there in awe. Yeah. I was looking around, even my wife was like... that man has been blessed.
Yeah, there's always a backup career for him. Yeah.
That's funny.
If he ever needs a quick $1,000, he knows what he can do.
That's fun. You guys remember somebody, we had a guest on and they had asked us, like, if you could be any bodybuilder in the IFBB, who would you be? And I was like, I'd be Bo Lewis. I just raised my hand. Somebody took that clip and they sent it to him. It was pretty
amazing.
No way.
Yeah, somebody sent that clip to him. It was good.
Oh,
He's a good guy, good
okay.
sense of humor.
That's funny.
Wow.
That's
Incredible
funny.
physique, too.
So what did you think of the Olympia, Kuba? Let's hear it. We were just there. Might as well talk about it. Lots to talk about. What was your experience like? What was your weekend?
Apart from the plague that seems to have riddled everyone. Apart from the plague, it was fantastic. But pretty much from Monday onwards, the day after the Olympia, I was pretty much starting to die. So apart from that, it was an amazing experience. I do think the judging is the main thing that I was really, really pleasantly surprised with, because I was seriously expecting him not to give it Haddy.
Yeah, me too.
Just for the reason that he doesn't speak English. He's not, the American poster boy like Derek is, but I think based off the judging and how it actually went, apart from maybe a questionable few places, I do think that now we can all kind of have confidence that at these big shows, you are getting judged on what you present, not who you are.
Agreed.
I think that was the biggest thing for me. One thing I did not like is the amount of time that we had to wait for the men's. I think that was a big letdown, because I think anyone who competes, knowing to hold that look for all that time, especially so late at night, I think that's almost an impossible task, especially having a 2-day show.
True.
I do think that probably needs addressing a little bit, but who am I to talk? That's just probably my opinion, which probably nobody really cares about. But I think that's probably the only thing that I think they could probably make better for athletes. But I just don't know how it probably would work. I think what I would personally like to see is men on one day and women on the other day, just to make it a little bit easier logistically wise. I think that would have made it a lot smoother, because...
Yeah, Dusty said that, didn't you?
Yes. I said the same thing. I think all the women should be Friday, all the men should be Saturday, and that should be that.
Yeah.
I agree, because by the end, when men was on, I was like, I want to go home to sleep now. I'm just tired. I'm worn out. So it's like the excitement that was there was pretty much gone from having to wait so long. That was the biggest thing for me. But apart from that, it was amazing. I think the expo was great. It was great to catch up a lot of people, but I expected it to be a little bit more mind-blowing than it was.
I think traditionally it's not as big as the Arnold, like expo-wise. That it's honestly, too, I feel like this expo was bigger. Would you guys agree? This expo was bigger than some of the Olympia expos have been in the past. Like the venue was bigger overall, but in general, I've always felt the Arnold is like the real big expo. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the Arnold's the bigger one usually at normal standards, right?
Yeah.
But I felt like this Olympia, I mean, there were a lot of like really big brands that didn't have a booth, like Optimum didn't have a booth. Normally, there's that giant massive booth that has all those Glambia related companies on it. And there's a larger expo. Yeah. But, I really liked the new venue. I mean, I thought it was, good. Just because the big companies aren't there doesn't mean it's not a great expo. There was a lot of people there,
Yeah.
So it was busy, and our booth was super busy. So that's what matters,
Yeah, yeah. Was this your first time out to the expo then, Kuba?
Yeah, that was my first time at the Olympia as well. So first time Olympia Expo and the Olympia. The only expo I've been to really before was like Body Power.
What did you think by comparison? Like Body Power UK versus US expos? Like the people and all of that. How's it different?
I don't know, because the year that I actually went to was when it was actually still pretty good.
Okay.
So comparing it on that scale, that's why I was a little bit underwhelmed, because I was expecting it to almost like take me back a little bit. But in terms of quality, I do think that the venue was great. But that was the only thing really. I was half expecting the expo to be bigger, but in terms of the show, I think it was unbelievable. I think one of the most impressive guys and the most impressive walk was Angel Calderon in 212.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was a hell of a look. He looked really good in that top three, I wasn't sure where they were going to put him. And I know like they gave him his little moment in the middle, and and just kind of lined them up and put him in the middle just to see how he looked. And he looked great. It's just Clarita was just a little too much going on for that. But I mean, that's his best placing ever, obviously.
Yeah. He's a super nice guy as well. So I think it meant a lot to him. You could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did really well. What did you think generally about British bodybuilding? This whole year with how all the British bodybuilders contributed and placed and the looks they brought. How do you feel British bodybuilding is right now on a world stage?
I think it's probably been one of the best years yet. If we can count Kamal as one of the British guys as well, especially with what Samson did, it's unbelievable. We've not really had anyone that's been climbing up so high since Dorian. I don't think anyone has, really, for all them years.
Like true UK guys, yeah.
I think Nathan the Asher came 7th or 8th, I think 2000 and... What year was it when Nathan did the Olympia?
Like 2019 or something? 2019 or 2018 or something? Yeah.
Right around there, yeah.
And I think Nathan was 8th, maybe, 7th. And the lineup probably wasn't... Yeah, I think within them numbers, I don't think the lineup probably was quite as heavy as that. But I do think British bodybuilding is probably thriving more than ever before at the moment because we've got so many good guys that are competing and active.
Yeah.
If we can count them as active now. I think it's definitely probably the best years it has had for a long time. Apart from some of the old timers that like to bring people down, I do think, it's a fact though. Apart from that, I do think it's been a great year. I would have loved to see Nathan and Jamie on that stage as well though this year. If that would have happened, I think that would have been like the greatest year since Dorian winning, really, if we had them guys on stage as well. But I do think it's good, and to be honest, seeing what Samson did and the improvements that we probably all know that he can still make, I would not be surprised if we see him in top 3 next year.
Yeah, those are some incredible changes.
Yeah, and he has the structure for it.
He won.
Yeah.
If he can do that,
you know what I mean though, with the way he's shaped with his V tape or his X frame and all that stuff. There's guys ahead of him that don't have that frame.
Yeah.
And how the frame is like, the frame really matters because it dictates how much you can actually get to, and what you'll look like when you pile it on. Some guys look worse when they get bigger, but when you have a great frame, you just keep looking better, and he's got the frame for it.
As well? Like, what's most interesting with Samson is he always struggled with the width, I believe, like in past, because his shoulders wasn't really, they didn't have the wow factor they have now. He wasn't as, I don't think his physique was almost as imposing as it is now. Like 2 years ago, for example, if you compare the pictures, the thickness and the width just wasn't anywhere near to where it is now. Now, if he can repeat that in 2 years again, I can't see many people being able to beat him or stand outside of him. Like the biggest thing that went in his favour, I think, as well this year, is he came out standing with Rami. And then when we saw Samson stand outside of him, and it was like comparable, and if anything, in some shots, he actually looked even slightly bigger, in my opinion. It was like, wow, he's really up there now. Like, that condition from the front, if he can nail that from the back, it's, I'm not going to say Ronnie Coleman, the next Ronnie Coleman, but it's probably going to be as close as it physically can get to Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, he looked amazing, and the improvements really impressed, anyone that didn't have his name in the mix. Like, we mentioned him a few times, but, I saw him at the Arnold, and he looked great, but the improvements, like, I was expecting an improved version of the Arnold. I wasn't expecting him to be, like, 2 years better.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right.
And you know how Instagram is? I just dismiss Instagram because I'm like, whatever. Like, we've just seen that a million times. And then when he came out, I was like, damn. Because, I heard some guy say, oh, I saw Samson and it's going to be crazy. And when he came out, I was like, wow, he looks fucking huge next to everybody. Like, look how much bigger he is in those, how much taller and bigger he is,
Yeah, his stature, the stature and the frame, unbelievable.
Yeah. And then I saw him, like, when I dropped by the Hostile booth there to talk to Paul. and Justin and the guys, Samson was there, and I was like, damn, he's bigger than I remembered, because I met him at the Arnold, but I don't remember him being that big. So it was like, it really surprised me, So,
sure. What surprised me is how much he's been able to hold the muscle. Like, there's a lot of new muscle there, and for that not to go away in prep, that is super impressive.
Right.
And like him being able to bring his back up so much as well. I think so, yeah. Milos said he was like 296 on his flattest day or whatever it was. But with Samson, I think we could just dismiss the body weight because he's a heavy guy anyway. But it's just the improvement to the quality and size and the way he's kept it. I don't think I've seen that with many people ever before, because I've seen guys get big real quick, right? And then they would instantly go into a diet phase, and that's it. They'd be like comparable to last time. They would lose a lot of the new size. Whereas with Samson, it's almost like he got there and just held it and just came down and didn't really lose anything. It was impressive.
Yeah, I can only imagine what that quality is going to be like with more time, I mean, considering that a lot of that was brand new muscle, and it's not like it looks like brand new muscle. It looks like he's held it, So I could only imagine, give him a year, what's that going to look like then,
What do you think of what's going on in the UK regarding the hardcore scene? Because when Dusty and I were at the what formerly was known as the Arnold UK, we had like what did we say? Like 99% of the people that came to the booth were like hardcore fans that listened to the podcast. It was like an extremely good reception regarding, this type of stuff, and, that talking about the logbook days and, the training in the gym and that sort of stuff. Unlike anywhere else in the world. And I've always felt that way about England. And, I mean, you obviously feel pretty positive about bodybuilding staying strong and alive there.
Yeah, I really think it is. With the current culture, I do think there's a big divide at the moment, because you've still got a lot of the die-hard fans and a lot of people that are still very much logbook orientated and progressive overload. But I'm not sure, ever since Jordan almost have taken a step back, we've almost seen a shift more towards a lot of people utilising reps in reserve, etc. And that's okay. I'm not going to sit here and bash it, but I do think that there's definitely a slight mixture, especially in the gyms. As any of you guys that probably spoke to, like James, for example, it's like any of the bigger gyms now, you've got a lot of guys that are in there that like to pretend that they're hardcore, but they're not, because they'll spend longer setting up an exercise in the tripod before they actually get into the set. And then it's almost like they're putting it on just for the set. So you still have like the niche guys that are really into it, that train really fucking hard. And I mean like really getting after it. But there's a lot more guys now that like to pretend so rather than actually doing so. And I think that is definitely something that's gotten almost under people's skin that are still the hardcore fans. And you can see it a lot more popular on social media as well, where, people almost having little digs at certain people that are doing certain movements or banning the movements. It's almost like just because someone's banning a machine, it's like it's like a sin, because, you're not supposed to ban it, you're supposed to be hardcore, you're supposed to do this. And it's like, I've been brought up on Dusty's training, on DC training, Jordan, all the progressive overload, and that's what I still do. But I'm not the kind of guy that would sit here and be like, right, just because you're doing this and I don't agree with it, I'm going to sit here and slag you off or, try and put you down for it. So I think the scene is still unbelievable, but if you was here, I think you'd notice a bit of a shift and a little bit more of a divide than it used to be. Because if we talk 3-4 years ago, right, there was no reps in reserved. There was no banding machines. There was no fancy methods. There was like literally everyone would be in the gym logbooking and bleeding out on machines with extra high blood pressure. Whereas now there's a big difference now where people are almost scared to train hard in certain places. It's like a lot of content I'll put out, for example, it's like I'm almost getting into arguments with people because it's like, yes, I preach about correct execution, but first and foremost, it's about the intensity and training hard. It's not just about getting your setup right and getting your execution right. So I think, the hardcore scene's still living well and strong, but there is, there's still a slight divide that I don't like to see, but it is what it is.
Everything always seems to ebb and flow back and forth. That's why I think we don't jump on things right away. We give it, like, I tend to give things a couple years and see how they do. I've seen so many things come around as the next thing. And if something can't survive the first couple of years and sort of phases out, then it's usually a waste of time. But I know what you mean. A little skepticism. Right, Dusty?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, though, because like you had said in a previous episode, Ron, most people who go to the gym that are training to failure in their mind are actually leaving reps in reserve, and they're not getting bigger. Like, that's the most basic argument, if I was even going to say, because I don't really give a shit what anybody else does. I just, whatever, do what you want. But if someone came to me and they said, I want to get as big as possible, as fast as possible, I can promise you I would not teach them to leave shit in the tank. It's just right. That's not the proven system. If you want to get as big as possible, as fast as possible, it would be like, okay, let me make sure you're doing shit right. Check. Okay, let me show you that you don't know how to train intense. Check. Now that you know how to do that, go do that, and I'll see you in 6 months. There's your big secret. Yeah. So that's the confusion. I get it. I think what really is happening more than anything is with the internet. If I go back to training the way I used to train and posting all my shit, what you'll see is every third week, the same workout will come back up again. It'll be 2.5 more pounds for 1 more rep. And people, it's not exciting. But if I come on and I'm like, oh, I learned this new system, and if you leave 2.6 reps in the tank and eat a taco, you're going to fucking grow like crazy. Oh, I've never heard of that. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And people want that because the truth of the matter is consistency of hard work is something most people are not willing to do. They think they are, but you find in time that they're not, and that's why they're searching for a better way to do it. We've all been there where they call you and go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Finish up.
It's not even a better way. It's easier. It's easier to do more sets. It's easier not to go to failure. That's honestly, I think, the difference. And the biggest difference now, it's like, if you was to step in a gym 3-4 years ago, right? At peak times, you would probably have 40 people in there getting after it, right? You step in the gym now at a peak time, you've probably got double that. Now, right. One thing we have to accept is like, not everybody likes to train hard. Not everybody can train hard, and not everybody can train hard consistently because it's not fucking easy. It's like, it's not easy to commit to a single exercise and know that, right, you're probably going to get to a point where it's going to hurt and it's probably going to get a little bit scary to try and continue to progress in that set, right? And this is a thing where a lot of the novel methods start coming in, is because people still want to look cool on social media and look like they're working hard and training hard, but actually doing so, there's a big difference. And the difference is now as well, it's like, it's just so much more popular. There's a lot more people doing it. And I think with a lot more people doing it, we have to accept that there's going to be different ways of skinning a cat, as I like to call it. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle to accept in the gym and the gym environment in general.
I think you nailed something there when you mentioned getting a little bit scared. And I think that's like I remember what it's like to put 5 plates on a bar and sit there staring at it going, fuck, I have to get under that. Like, I know I can do it because I've squatted 5 plates like 100 times, but it still made me nervous every time I ever put 5 plates on a squat bar. It was like, fuck, this is like a weight that I have to respect. This could end my career. This is enough weight that you can't, like, I know, that animal, that's what you have to find. You have to find the fuck this. I'm just going to walk through this. That's where you have to find. And that's my point, is that if you're not challenging yourself to get into those mental states, and again, it doesn't have to be about training heavy. It could be staring at 3 plates and thinking, I have to get 30 fucking reps with this. This is going to be brutal. This is going to be 5 minutes of hell, and I have to walk through this. And you have to like get your head. If you're not doing something that makes you have to get your mind right, then you're not training hard enough. And that's, you know what I mean? Like there has to be some element of that. There's no way you can develop the physiques that we're talking about, the physiques that we all, strived for, unless there's some form of like fear that you have to overcome. And there's a million different ways that manifests itself in the gym over the years. Like I said about the 5-plate squat, anytime I ever put a certain number of plates on a leg press, I thought, fuck, this is like, I got to like take a minute here and fucking really get my head in the right spot for this. You know what I mean? Certain size dumbbells always kind of mark that, like you're getting in, anytime you grab like the 160 dumbbells, I was always getting into like, okay, this is like, you got to handle these perfectly. There is no room for error, like that sort of stuff. Right. And I just think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. They think if they just pull on the handle till it stops, that's like enough. But that fear zone, I don't know, that seems to be something that's really important when we're trying to develop like crazy amounts of muscle mass.
But that's also what develops your brain, right? I mean, you have to have that. When you touch that and you beat it a few times, it becomes addicting. I think that's the part that people miss is like, I told Scott at the Olympia, we talked, I don't deadlift anymore because if I deadlift, I will deadlift like I used to. And I will start pushing numbers and I'll be shooting for 800 again. And I don't want to do that anymore. It's an injury waiting to happen. The risk to reward isn't there. And that lift, I am not capable of being sensible because it's not fun. It is not fun for me to do 600 pounds. I'm like, so it's like, I think that's the thing people do miss though, is as you develop that level of your mindset too, to where it's boring to go to the gym if you don't do that. That's why when I used to cruise, like Dante would say, okay, take your cruise period. I'd say, can I just stay home? I don't want to go and do that. And he's like, sure. So I'd just take 2 weeks off. I wouldn't go to the gym at all. Because you walk in the gym. I mean, you know this, Kuba. Like you go to the gym, you're supposed to be cruising and the weight feels good that day. And next thing you know, you're doing what you're not supposed to be doing because I felt good that day. So I would just say, okay, I'll just take 2 weeks off and come back and kill myself in 15 days. My take.
I think that moment just before that set, and as you get into that set, that feeling, and it's almost like you get in a different zone, right? And then you unrack, and then when you unrack and the feeling you get, I don't think much compares to it. I think that's what's so addictive to the way that we train. I think when you've been exposed to that and then you keep repeating that week in, week out, and then at the moment, for example, in my training, right, there's not a single session where I don't think about a certain lift. It's like yesterday, for example, I did my incline Smith, right? I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do again in 10 days' time because it's the excitement and the fear that's combining together that's driving me on towards that lift. And I think when you're exposed to that kind of training, it's like your whole life starts to revolve around it. And it's something that I wish more people would really experience, because I do think that a lot more people would genuinely love training for sake of training alone if they kind of knew how it felt.
Yes.
And I've been extremely lucky to really be exposed to that kind of training very early on with Ian Harrison's. I'm not sure if you know who Ian Harrison is, right? One of his training partners. So when I was 15, I started training legs with one of his old training partners, Tony Megson. And we would train 8 o'clock every morning, Sunday morning, right? And I would literally only just be able to sit down and squat and have a shit on Saturday morning with no pain. And I would train legs again on Sunday. And that would be a cycle every single week, right? Yep. And even though I was in so much pain, and like I would almost half dread that Sunday every week, it's like I would get excited for it because every week we'd be squatting more weight. Every week we'd be in a harder set. It's like knowing that you can push past that certain level. It's pretty exciting, and it almost puts you into like a bit of an addiction where you're chasing it continuously. I think that's the biggest. Like, you almost get addicted to that kind of progress.
Sure, and you know what else too? You know what else? Like, I think reinforces that is that you are also seeing results. You're seeing yourself get stronger, and B, you're seeing physical changes. Like, you can see yourself growing when you're lifting that way. And that, I think that combination is nasty addictive. And you can see, I love how you said that your whole life begins to revolve around it, because you recognize, if I get all this fluid in this morning and I push it a little bit higher, if I get all my nutrition in, if I get all these carbs in, then I might be able to get that one more rep that I needed. So yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from. I agree. It's a very addictive thing, but in the best way. I agree. I wish that more people could understand that when we're talking, and I agree that there's nothing wrong with people who want to do reps in reserve. I think that there's more than one way to get there. But if those people could understand this, you know what part of it is too? And I'll speak from my own personal experience. I think sometimes we disqualify ourselves. For a long time, I said to myself, well, I'm not strong like Dusty. I can't lift the way Dusty does. And I thought that I wasn't like that. But you know what? I was selling myself short is what it came down to.
Right. I'm also fascinated. Oh, go ahead, Kuba.
I totally agree. And I think these days it's like I've almost been blessed that I was put in a position I was in early on, because I learned how to train hard first before I started to really dig into the finer, intricate details of training and nutrition. Yeah. It was like we would go in the gym and it would literally be like, right, we're going to train until you pretty much want to give out and you completely had enough. Whereas now people almost want to learn all the details first before they even are able to go until they can't physically go anymore. I think that's where kind of the biggest difference is for me right now. And this is where we get a lot of people clashing with the kind of old school guys in the gym and the new school guys in the gym. It's rife, honestly. Obviously, I own a gym, and it's probably a lot different here than it is over in Canada. Is the kind of divide that we have right now? It's very apparent between the new school and the old school, and I totally understand why.
A lot of the fascination for me comes down to the dopamine discussions that we've had before on the show, and I was talking about Andrew Huberman guy and how he speaks about dopamine, and when they call it the motivation chemical, that's when it really hit home. And he talks about the dopamine reward we get from work. Right. So if we do like hard work and then you get your gains, you get your rep on the hack squat this week, the dopamine rush that you get from that is intense. And the dopamine rush gets more intense if we've really put a lot of effort into something. So when the more effort you put into something and then you get a reward, the dopamine intense is higher. So when you make leg day Sunday at 8 a.m. and it kind of sucks for everyone involved, but then you get your gains out of it, it just like fortifies that reward. That reward system is just crazy. And that's what drives us. That's why we do these hard things to, I think Dusty used the term, callous the mind. I'm not sure who said that on the show.
I think it's Dusty.
But develop that sort of mental toughness. And I look back and there's a whole bunch of things I did that were that sort of thing, like Sunday morning at 8 legs. Like that's what you did. I did similar things like that, like things that, like I always did legs on Christmas Day. That was another thing. Like, cause the gym was empty. I had a key. Right. You know what I mean? It's those little things that you do to make things like tough. And I don't know. I love that shit.
You'll have to watch.
You know what else is cool?
I just put this out today, so check this one out, Ron, when you get a chance. Dopamine, bodybuilding, with Dr. Mike Miltek. Sorry.
Okay, Dustin. No one listen to me. Just go watch that.
that another thing that's cool that happens over time is years ago, Ron and I were training in Dino's gym up there. And Ron was like, we trained back, and Ron was like, I'll just do whatever you do. And like the second or third thing we did was dead stop rows off the floor. And Ron's like, I've never done these before. And I was like, all right, well, you saw what to do them. When you are experienced in finding that place, literally first time out, I think Ron was doing 375 off the ground. And like, you know, you see the forms, you know, slipping just a hair, and then there's 3 more reps. And then there's that one more fuck you rep. And it's like, people don't realize that comes from the reps on the mind and everything else, because it was literally the first time he ever did it. He got done and he looked at me and I was like, fuck. Okay, you should do these more often. Like, you know, because
I was like, those are really hard.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, most people, because you don't have that mindset, you would approach your first time doing something like, oh, I'm just going to kind of feel it out and whatever. He felt it out during the warm-ups. He knew what to do. And the mind knows where to take the set. And you know when you're in a safe or unsafe portion to push some extra reps. And that's what you were saying, Kuba. It's like, if you don't find that first, you're in a tough spot. You know, like I feel the same way with nutrition sometimes. I get kids that are 17 years old. They're like, I want to hire you to train me. And I'm like, how about you just go eat a shit ton of food, keep protein your main focus, eat 6 times a day, maybe 7, and then come to me in 6 months. You'll be bigger. And then let's talk. Because if you can't figure out how to just plow down any food, I don't think we need to go to chicken and rice yet, kid. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's the same with the training. Like you said, we used to do the same. It wasn't until like an older, experienced guy pulled me aside and he said, bro, you don't have to do every single thing in the gym every single time to absolute failure. I was like, oh, okay. Because that's what you would do. You do the squat, and then you do the leg press, and you do the hack squat. You just worked your way down the machines because we didn't know any better. But I think that's a good building block, because then all of a sudden when someone says, actually you need 5 total sets, but that same intensity, you're like, oh, I can do that. Easy. Right. You know, it's where your growth comes from.
I have a listener question here that I want to throw in for all you guys, but I want to ask Kuba because this ties right in. I was going to save this till later, but the question was from Finn, and he says, please explain the term to failure, and how can you tell your clients are at the point of failure without the risk of injury? How would you respond to that one, Kuba?
Right, so if I've got a beginner client, what I actually like to do, if they've never trained to failure, right, I make them get on a bike and I make them pedal as hard as they physically can on a high setting. So, you know, the spin bikes where you can turn up the setting to make it quite heavy. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So if you turn it up to a heavier setting, you put someone on it and make them pedal as hard as they physically can, they will probably be able to pedal for like 30 seconds until they completely give out and they can't pedal anymore, right? If someone's never, ever actually gone to total failure, that's probably the first thing I'll make them do. And that's something I actually heard Matt Jansen. I'm going to give him credit when it's due. I'm not going to say that I invented it because I'm not that kind of guy. I heard Matt Jansen actually say this probably 6-7 years ago, right? And I've literally been using that ever since with clients. Now, how can I tell with most clients whether they're going to failure or not? It's literally the speed of the last 3 to 4 reps. If the speed doesn't really change at all, right, and the last rep is literally the same speed on the concentric as it was in the first rep, like, you know, they are nowhere near failure. And some guys even try to put it on. You know, some guys start getting vocal and start screaming just to complete that last rep of hack squat. But it's like they'll come down, a decent eccentric, good control. They'll come back up, and it's like they'll almost start to scream. And like as soon as they start screaming, that rep looks even easier than the reps before that. I'm like, right, politely, and then I have to say it's like, great set, but based off the speed of that last rep, you definitely had 3 to 4 more reps in there. And I think when you call someone out on that, it sometimes lights a bulb and flips a switch, right? Then on the other hand, when you start calling certain people out that have an ego, they don't take it all that well. And you either don't get form clips or you start losing clients. And that's also fine, because most of us probably don't really want them kind of clients anyway. But I think the easiest way to really tell, it's like for anyone, like with Ron's experience and with obviously Dustin's experience, even Scott's experience, like I can always guarantee that when you guys watch a set, I bet you can actually probably predict, watching that set, how many more reps these guys have left until they actually fail, because you've seen so many sets to failure, right? And you've done so many sets to failure yourself. You know exactly how them reps change as the proximity to failure gets higher and higher.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you can feel it.
You can
feel it as you're watching.
Decrement.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I was kind of explained to people how, you know, your reps should all look exactly the same, and then you have to be able to see that rep that slows down, and that rep that slows down, despite the fact that you're maintaining the same amount of force output. Now you know you're in the zone for those reps that really, really matter. You know, all the reps that are exactly the same speed are just to get you to that one that slows down, and then the one more after it that you really have to grind out, you know? So you're always kind of looking for those reps. And I had a coach that called that the force decrement, so decreasing force output. So he would always look for the rep that slowed down. And he's like, okay, now we're in business, you know? And he's like,
yep.
Now here's where like adaptation occurs, you know, and he would always kind of talk about that end of the set, you know, that little piece at the end that really, you know, we like to just spend our time there, you know?
Yeah.
That's what Dante used to call that. He would literally say the now moment, because the moment that starts, he would say that's when the set begins. Like the rest of it's just to get there. And he would literally, so when you would train and he'd see that little blink, he'd go now. And it's like, okay, these are the reps that are going to divide you. And sadly, that's oftentimes when people put the weight down, and not even because they're doing reps in reserve, because they don't realize, like, it got harder. Yeah, it did, but it was there, you know, and it is okay for the form to loosen a hair to get these things done, as long as you're not putting yourself in a dangerous point. As long as your back's not rolling, you're still deadlifting. It's fine. Or you're still rowing. You know what I mean? That's the place where people miss, is like you were saying, Ron, if they stay identical and then you stop, then you just chose to stop. It's what I wish there was a way to train people without using numbers. It's very difficult. You say 10 to 12 and then they send their set and you literally watch at 10, it's easy. At 11, it's easy. And then 12, it's really hard. I'm like, no, because you told yourself before that set 12.
Right. Yeah. I
want you to tell yourself 18.
Right. I like Meadows used to always say that failure was when your form had to break 5 to 10% to complete another rep. He considered that, you know, the occurrence of failure, and then anything beyond that was training beyond failure. So if you do some cheat reps or forced reps or anything, and the 5 to 10% was just depending on the exercise. Like a barbell curl could be 10% form break, whereas a stiff leg deadlift, you want to keep that form almost completely. You don't really want to break form on that. You know what I mean? So he was always like kind of talking that way.
Yeah. Hey, I made a note here. I'm sorry, were you going to say something, Kuba?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more people that are almost scared to take it that far anyway. So it's like when people say it's like it's getting to the point where it's like risking an injury, I very rarely see anyone train that hard that it is going to risk an injury. It's like if someone's training with poor form, there's a big difference between someone just not executing the movement properly or training to failure. It's like if someone is able to actually train to failure well, I very much doubt that they're going to be in any risk in any way, because they are already going to be able to execute that movement well enough to be able to take it all the way there. Like you have to have the skill to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions for Kuba. First one, are there too many coaches?
Oh, yes and no. Yes and no. I'm gonna give two answers here.
Accurately rated. Jesus.
Accurately rated, yes.
Yes and no, right. So there is way too many coaches, yes, but it's a good thing in my opinion, because there is that many coaches out there that don't provide a service that they should provide. Mm-hmm. It's almost making our life easier as a coach to hold clients and get new clients, because there's that many different people getting either a bad experience or just a poor service.
True.
So as far as coaching goes, it's like everyone's trying to be a coach because they think it's easy, right? And then anyone that will tell you that has coached, and I'm pretty sure all of you guys will agree with me on this, it's like when you coach properly, it's worse than a full-time job. It's harder than a full-time job because you almost feel like you are working pretty much out of hours constantly, and it's like you have to go above and beyond, because when you start coaching, you're not just a coach, you turn into pretty much, a coach, a trainer, a friend, and 10 different other things that you have to do for your client. So I do think that it's a lot harder than people think it is, and this is why not many people actually make it full-time as coaches as well, because when they realize what it takes to be a coach and do it full-time, then they're like, actually, I would rather have a 9 to 5 and just finish and do what I need to do, because with coaching, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree, it never ends. Like, your work never really stops.
You're sitting on the toilet at midnight going through WhatsApp, answering questions about rice and cardio. Yep. It's funny. What are you doing in there? Just catching up on coaching, You get that question from the wife. Yeah. You got to hide. What do you think is the most important thing to focus on as a coach? What do you think your number one most important job is as a coach?
Ooh, that is a very good question. Very good question. I would say continuously trying to self-develop as a coach. I think a lot of coaches are just focusing on coaching, right? And I think that's probably the biggest mistake you can do. Like, coaching itself is not going to make you a better coach. It's just not. Mm-hmm. You need to try and learn something new to be a better coach. And some of that will come along with experience and on the job, because you're working with more clients and more athletes. And obviously every client is potentially like a case study that you can learn from. But I do think a lot of coaches end up taking so much on. It's like they just coach. And I think when you just coach, you never really get an opportunity to expose yourself to new information and actually being able to, evolve and move forward. I think that's the biggest thing that can hold people down. And for me, it's like coaching goes hand in hand with my bodybuilding. It's like the better bodybuilder I am, the better coach I am, and vice versa, if that makes sense. Because whatever I do with my clients will probably work with myself as well. So that's the kind of beauty of being a bodybuilder and a coach at the same time as well. Because a lot of people are under the opinion that you can't do both. And it's like, yeah, you probably can't do both if, you've got a terrible structure and routine and, you're unorganized. You probably can't. But if you're pretty organized across your day and, you don't get up at 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon and then start work, you can probably handle a lot more than you think.
Oh yeah.
Who do you think was the most influential person you've ever had on your coaching? You as a coach.
So I wouldn't say just coaching, right? But I'll say the most influential person in my life and continues being the most influential person is definitely Jordan Peters. And he has indirectly also had the biggest positive influence on my coaching as well, because Jordan has not only paved a way for me, but he has engraved something in me for years now where I have to continue to try and get better across everything that I do, right? That's what Jordan stands for. And indirectly, I think that has led me to being a better coach continuously, because I'm always looking to get better. And that's not just at coaching, that's life, and that's everything I do. And I think I'll say the most influential person that has led to me becoming better in everything that I do is definitely Jordan. And he continues to do so every day as well. So I think, without a doubt, it's Jordan. Because with how Jordan nurtures me as a friend, as a mentor, and everything that he doesn't just instill self-belief in me, but he almost paves a way for me to make the right decisions and almost behave better in many, many ways as well. And it's definitely made me mature as a person and in business in so many ways. And through having that influence, it's pushed me to be not only a better person, but a better coach, better athlete, better in general. So I'll definitely have to say Jordan. Yeah.
Nice. I noticed you said that he pushed you to get better at everything you do, and not just the gym stuff. And that reminded me of one of my favorite sayings that I talk to Dusty and the guys about all the time, is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I find as I go through life, I can observe how someone does something, and it can be anything from how they handle their, like, the condition of their gym bag. Right. What is in their gym bag? How prepared are they? How organized are they? Like, everything is a metaphor for how everybody does everything. And I know it's not always like, you don't want to, convict people on, their odd bad habit and stuff like that. But generally I find, people that are always, not quite finishing things. Well, they're the same people that don't put the lids back on their shit in the cupboard. And they're the same people that don't wash their dishes the same day as they like. I just see these patterns, and I just wonder what your take on that is, and how you feel about how Jordan has affected what you said, everything you do.
Oh, mate, I couldn't even tell you the difference, because he doesn't even realize the difference that he has made in me as a person. So little things, right? It's not only taught me how to handle certain situations in training, how to handle situations in business, how to conduct myself. And the biggest thing as well, he has really taught me how to not be emotional and how not to emotionally react, which has not only made me a better person in life, a better partner, a better businessman, a better business partner, but also a better coach, because part of maturing as a person is having the ability to emotionally detach yourself from many, many things, right? And having that ability to emotionally detach myself in everything that I do in bodybuilding, I've always had that ability to do so, right? But I found it much harder to emotionally detach myself from certain business situations, certain life situations, and even with coaching, it's like when you get so invested into certain people's process, right? If they leave or if they do something to indirectly, I wouldn't say stab you in the back, but, disrespect you in some sort of certain way, it's like Jordan is also almost like through the conversations that we've had and through almost paving a way for me and explaining certain things for me, he's taught me the ability to really emotionally detach myself from taking things personal and then being reactive towards them as well. And I think that's just such an invaluable trait that has a carryover into everything that I do right now, because I'm not emotional in certain situations as a business partner that I used to be. I used to react to certain things in a way that I would look back now and it would be quite embarrassing. So it's a lot of things that's taught me, and it's like ever since he's taught all these things, it's like I pick up certain little things. It's like when I speak to people, when I count individuals, it's like I almost find it a lot harder to trust people now because I can read people much better. And it's like I see how people treat others and then how they treat me, and I can compare that, for example. And then it's like, hold on a minute, that's just one of many examples, right? It's like certain people treat me differently, and then I'll turn around and then treat others like shit. It's like, that's not my kind of guy, And he has taught me so many things that have just indirectly had a positive influence on how I am in so many different things. And I think, we're referring back to your original question with coaching, right? Coaching is very much about your ability to obviously read people and communicate, right? Now, the biggest thing that Jordan has taught me is how to communicate. I almost had an upbringing where communication wasn't really a thing. You know, you're a man and that's it. You know, if you feel a certain way, fucking put up with it. Doesn't matter, you know. And I think Jordan has really taught me how to communicate in many, many ways. And that's just allowed me to almost like level up in everything that I do. And that's just been a massive difference with my coaching, with my work outside of the gym and coaching realm as well, with the way I'm in, and obviously with my business partners, it's made a massive difference. I can't even explain it to you. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I try not to go like super deep, you know.
Yeah. No, well, that's good. That was good. And it actually brought me to the last thing I had on my list for you, which was the business of the gym. You're a fellow gym owner. Tell us about the gym. Those of you that don't know the fantastic thing you got going up there.
Oh, tell us about the gym. What do you want to know? What do you want to know? Tell me.
Give me the elevator pitch on what your gym's all about.
Right. So, what the gym's all about? So the gym opened in 2017, January 9th. And it was always a dream, you know. It was something I set out to do from a very early age, at a young age. And I was going to do it no matter what. So everything I did, you know, has led to that moment. So long story short, I'm not going to bore you with it. I got into partnership with my business partner, Charlie and Mike. Charles Marden, Mike Motanov, big up, shout out. You've got to mention the lads as well. And it was an opportunity and an offer I could not refuse, right? Where they basically said to me, right, this is what we're going to do. We can pretty much create a gym of your dreams. And, you know, if you're up for it and if you want to kind of go ahead and get that done. So Ultraflex was created, long story short. And it's a gym that has an array of equipment. It's all been hand selected across 13,500 square foot bottom floor, and we do have a mezzanine floor that's like 7,000 square foot. So it's 20,000 square foot all in, and it's all Prime, Atlantis, Cybex, little bits of Watson. It's pretty much hand selected across every single machine that you can pretty much think of that is meant to be indestructible, but it always somehow gets broken. But the goal for the gym was to create the best training facility that I could possibly create. And I can confidently say, in terms of equipment and the environment that we've created at the gym now, I don't think many gyms can match this in England, in terms of not just the equipment that we have, but also the people that train there now, because the amount of people that have relocated just to train out of the gym is crazy. It's like people that have moved over from Italy, people have moved over from Spain. Actually, two Barrio brothers, both natural athletes, are moving over this month now as well. So it's like the amount of people that have relocated, not just cities, but from other countries, just to train at the gym. It's mind blowing, and it's more than a dream come true now. It almost feels surreal seeing the feedback and seeing the people, you know, move their whole life over just to be in that environment and train out at the gym. So it's quite epic. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
You mentioned people moving, and I know the feeling. I've had people move from other cities to train at our gym, and it's pretty incredible when they come up and tell you, you know, I'm moving here. You know, like it's great. And then you have the Europe thing going on where people can come from other countries. That's just, you know, craziness. So, you know, I've got it on my list now. How far is it from London?
It's a 3-hour drive from London.
So it's an hour north of Birmingham?
Yeah, it's literally just over an hour to Birmingham. So it's actually straight down. It's a pretty easy drive. So if you do visit, you'll have to.
It's on my list, and what's the location? You have 2 locations now, right? So
there's actually a lot more now. So it's Ultraflex Rotherham, but there's actually
that's the original
Ultraflex.
Right?
So there's Ultraflex Leeds, Rotherham, York, Normanton, Durham, and they're opening another one in Leeds now, actually, as well. So there's
Wow.
like 5-6 locations now. Yeah.
So you helped design the template of what the gym is and the equipment you bring in, and you brought your knowledge as a bodybuilder to the team and what you would want for a training facility. Is that kind of how you would describe it?
So not entirely. I'm not going to take all the credit there, but I have contributed a lot when it comes to equipment selection. But initially, I actually opened my gym before Charlie did. So my gym was called Iron Athlete initially. And then Charlie opened Ultraflex Leeds, which was the original gym, the first gym, like a few months later. And then when we actually got into business, that's when we actually started sourcing Prime and all the other equipment, because initially it was just kind of kitted out with all the top bits from Atlantis and Watson. And personally, you know, no offense to anyone listening, but I've never been a fan of Watson gym equipment ever. And when we got into business, I was like, look, this is the equipment that I would like to get. And I literally had an opportunity to order any equipment that I want. Like, literally, no expenses spared, no limits. So as you can imagine, I kind of went to town, and I pretty much went on Prime website and was like, yeah, all of this, please. And then some original Cybex pieces, etc. So I've definitely had a contribution towards that, but Charlie, my business partner, and Mike, you know, they're both guys that have been bodybuilders themselves for a long, long time. So obviously they have the knowledge in terms of equipment as well. They're not just businessmen; they're actually bodybuilders as well.
Right,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so it's not just been that, you know, I brought the idea along and that was it.
Dangerous team.
But yeah, 100%. And with what they've taught me when it comes to business and how to actually do business, it's definitely invaluable. But that's a conversation for another time. But initially, when I actually opened the gym as well, I had a barber's in there, a cafe, you know, sunbeds, etc. And back then in 2017, you know, that was unheard of. And I think that was that's kind of the business project and business model that we have now. It's where, you know, we open up a gym, but we also sublet a lot of the space to other businesses within the gym as well on the premises. And I can kind of take credit for that, off that, you know. As much as I knew nothing about business back then, I had some okay ideas, I would like to hope.
Well, I want to tell you that I'm meeting with Mutant to submit my location ideas for the season 8 of Mutant on a Mission. And one of the priorities is to come up to Ultraflex and see you at that home location of yours. And I know for a fact I'll be coming to England this year, so I will be seeing you and we will sort that out.
That'd be cool.
Mate, that was amazing. That'll be a big one for the bucket list as well, because I've been watching Mutant on a Mission since I was probably since it started, I would say.
Me too.
For some years now.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been going this long, and I can't believe they keep asking me for seasons. It blows me away. And I got to thank you guys, like real, actual bodybuilder, gym owner, kid heads that love their fucking leg presses and hack squats and random pieces from the 80s. Like the messages I get from you guys about the show, like I'll talk about something on the show and then I'll laugh at myself after. I'll be like, who the fuck is going to care about that? Like, because I'm really critical of myself. I watch the edits and I'm like, oh God. But then I'll get messages from you guys. You'll be like, oh my God, that's a leg press I have. It's the fucking best. Like, you're just so crazy about it. So it's rewarding in that way.
Yeah, we've actually got pretty much all the hacks what you can think of. I've just managed to get the original Cybex as well. So I've got the new Cybex and the original both outside of each other now. So when you come down and train legs, you're going to have choice of like 6 hack squats and 6 hack squats, 3 different pendulums, and like 6 leg presses as well.
I should do a thing awesome. Where I do like a set on each hack squat. That'll be just it. That's the whole workout.
The whole leg workout.
Hey, you'll have to do
the whole leg workout.
You'll have to do that.
Something different on each one. Yeah. We thank you for coming on the show, man. It was awesome to have you on. Very generous with your time, and like I said, to have a guy on who actually watches the show and is an actual pro bodybuilder, and all this stuff that we we're really freaked out that you guys are paying attention. So we appreciate it, man. And like you described earlier about Dusty and I loving the British bodybuilding scene, it's we love just connecting with it whenever we get a chance.
Absolutely.
I think, like I said, you guys paved the way, especially with the old training videos. I know that you both guys are retired, but I do think that you've had a massive influence, as Jordan has. I think back then, when you was at your biggest and your strongest, everybody used to watch your training clips. Either it was Mutant Mission or watching Dusty's training clips as well, and Jordan's. And I think that's what's kind of paved the way for people like me to actually train with some minerals and not do reps in reserve. So it's
love it.
A massive thank you from me, because you've done a lot of good, guys, indirectly.
Appreciate that. Glad you hope you had a great Christmas. And this is Boxing Day. We're recording right after the holidays, back at work. I'm sure you're back on your phone just fucking hammering out clients shit and seeing how much damage everybody did over the weekend. So so once again, Kuba, anything you like to say to the people watching? How can they get a hold of you if they want to talk to you? So
easiest way is probably on Instagram. Kuba Cielen, first name, second name. I think if you type my first name in, I don't think there's any other. There's not many other bodybuilders with the same name, so I don't think you're going to get many bodybuilders come up with the same name. I hope not, anyway.
Right.
So that's probably the easiest way. And just a massive thank you to Jordan, obviously the sponsor, trained by JP.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
There you go. Was that under the Christmas tree for you?
Yeah. To be honest,
okay.
Jordan does spoil us with all the clothing and all the supplements. So yeah, just a massive thank you, Jordan, and I hope everyone watched the show. I hope everyone enjoyed the show, and I appreciate you guys having me on. Definitely means a lot.
Cheers,
I've been a fan for a long time, so appreciate you all, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Kuba. Remember, Kuba Cielen, owner of Ultraflex up there, and how do you say Rotherham?
Rotherham, that's it.
Rotherham. There we go. You got to say it correctly. Okay, man. We look forward to seeing you at more expos and on more podcasts, and love to have you on again and chat. Next time you have some news, we can go over a big show or something.
That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Okay. Peace out, man.
I appreciate you guys. Cheers.
See ya.
Boom. Little bit of a delay, but we got through that good.
Is that right?
That was great.
I didn't see the delay. Did you see you had a delay?
No, I felt like there was a little bit of delay, so I was trying not to talk over him and stuff.
Gotcha.
That was great. I really liked what he had to say about JP influencing him.
That was
cool.
was
kind of the meat. That was like what I felt was like the kind of the big core out of the interview was the kind of mindset that he's gotten from the bodybuilding and how it's like worked its way through how he conducts himself in business and everything. And that's something that we've talked about that a lot, like your dedication, your, commitment to finish things, like all of that stuff that we get through the way we, put all this effort in the gym, and how it can carry over if you know how to let it. Yeah. Some people have this incredible work ethic in the gym, and they can't seem to carry that over to anything else. And I think that's something that is, it's a skill, how to transcribe. It's like if someone knows how to play piano, a really good musician can then just look at like a guitar, and they can transcribe it onto they can figure out the guitar. And some people just need that ability to transfer their abilities to another thing that's really not that different. Absolutely. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like logbooking in the gym, not that different from running a business. You know what I mean? There's these goals you've got written down. You have a system to get to them, and it's the ability to kind of convert that. And I find that stuff really interesting.
And I personally found it interesting that he was also motivated by you guys, inspired by you guys, and I can relate to that, having seen, Dusty coming up, you guys both coming up and lifting heavy and, showing people what hardcore bodybuilding could be. I love seeing that, that's influenced the next generation. I feel good about seeing that.
It's
Absolutely.
also strange. It's strange for me because, like, I didn't put out nearly as much content as Dusty did when he was still competing. Like, Dusty had several years of his actual career where he was really pumping out, crazy deadlift sets and that sort of stuff. And I didn't really, I could sort of, Instagram was 2012 and I was done in 2015. So I didn't really do as much of that. And then also my biggest, strongest kind of when my body was at its like most functionally strong was kind of like 05 to 2010 was kind of when I was at my strongest, but before any of my injuries. And I didn't really film anything of substance back then.
We weren't posting that stuff on MySpace,
Yeah, and we weren't putting big we weren't really doing it. I was late to YouTube, and I didn't really do that. And so I feel like I'm sort of amazed that he's like, oh yeah, I watched everything you did. I was like, oh, I didn't do much.
But you did MUTANT on a mission, and I know that was a little
I started
later
doing those,
but you really, that was a big, I think it showed that the lifestyle, it showed it showed that hardcore lifestyle is really what it did.
And even though like MUTANT on a mission was sort of, I wasn't at my biggest and strongest for any of that really. It was the intensity and like the attitude towards training, and so I'm really happy to see that was able to kind of transfer.
Yeah, for
sure. You know how we're hard on ourselves as bodybuilders. We're like, oh well, I'm only doing 5 plates. This video's not interesting.
Yeah,
right. But there's everyone else is putting 8 plates on this machine. Why should I post my 5 plate set?
Sure,
who cares? Right, but there's a lot more.
Crazy.
To it.
You only do that against yourself, because I know you guys have both done this. I did this the other day. I'm sitting in the gym, and I was it was before we went to Vegas, and I look over, and there was a kid squatting 185, right, but flawless.
Yeah,
and then grinding out extra reps, like to the point I almost walked over because I'm like, oh, he's going for reps that may not be there.
Yeah.
And I just remember shaking my head, and I actually yelled to a friend of mine. I'm like, "Look at this shit!" And he goes, "Damn!" So you really do only do that to yourself because, like you said, the intensity comes through.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's training. The weight is just the weight. I mean, I've seen guys be more dangerous with 135 to their strength versus me with 500. Because I'm like, oh, God, you're going to get hurt, kid. That's crazy. And I've seen really impressive sets with weight that really wasn't that nuts. But you're like, you see them, they're like, oh, he's done. And then he does another one. And then they do another one. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And it was 185 pounds, but I forgot that. It didn't matter, So it is a funny thing that people tend to do to themselves. Because I know for a fact, hell, I've seen Ron do it, walk over to someone and be like, damn. Like, you got after that.
Oh, yeah. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I saw a kid squatting the other day, and he we were, Braden and I were on one of the T-bar rows, and we weren't far from the squat rack. And this kid, I looked over, and he had 4 plates aside, and he barely weighs 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, right away, we kind of looked at each other, and I looked back over, and we were like, okay, let's see what happens here. And the kid goes down and up real fast.
Okay.
And then he goes down and up real fast again.
Yeah.
And we're like, damn. And then the 4th rep was slow.
Okay.
Like it was a creeper. And I was like, he does not have another rep. And then he walked it in and racked it.
Yeah.
And I just went over to him and I was like, dude, that's like double your body weight. And you were just burying it. And your form was perfect. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. Like it was impressive,
Yeah.
Just how his form was so locked in, and he went right to the verge. Like he almost fucking didn't make that last one,
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to go say something to this kid. I got to go say something, So, okay. Well, that was a great guest. I enjoyed having him on, man. Kuba's a good guy. And I liked how I actually had a few things else on the list, but we started talking about training mentality, and that ate up like a big chunk of it. which I guess is what people are going to want from
I knew
from
you guys
us.
would get
So
into
that's
that.
cool.
I knew you guys would get into that, so I'm glad we could bring him
I
on.
didn't even really get into the logbook stuff. I had questions about logbooks because he's posted a lot about them. You know, like
I had stuff too. Like he has stuff about training sequence that I wanted to ask him. But we had some good stuff anyway, though. Well, good excuse to bring him back. Talk a little more specifics.
I wanted to ask him about his strategy for, what he posts a lot of reels, a lot of coaching tip reels.
Yeah, they're real good too.
His specialty is like coaching tips. Like, okay, when you're doing this, when you're doing this, like he does a lot of that. Yeah. And I was going to ask him a bunch of questions about his strategy for that. Is he just thinking of 3 things at breakfast, or does he have like a week-long list that he wants to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, he's like, I don't know, I'm just winging it, So, okay, remember everybody, like, share, subscribe, comment,
and ring the bell.
There you go.
You made me say the and. Jesus.
Oh, did I? Did I drop the and on you?
You did.
You got to be ready.
I was like waiting. I'm like, I guess I got to do it. Oh,
okay, that was good. That was good. Well, hey, you came through.
Are you going to try to get one more word out of me every couple of months? Is that the plan?
Right. And remember, IamMutant.com. Right. I think there's some sort of Boxing Day sale going on. I reposted something. It said
27% off right now.
27% off.
This will come out Wednesday, so this will. I don't know.
It'll be there.
It'll be there still. Okay, good.
Yeah, still be there.
6 days.
Cool.
6 days. So 4 days. You got 4 days or 3 days. I don't know, however many it works out to. And remember, Dusty 20 or Big Ron 20, but you don't need to use it one. And I'm going for the reverse psychology.
I think it might work.
Tell them to use yours, and then
I would use yours then, because I'd be like, oh, look how nice he is.
Yeah,
there you go.
Ron deserves.
Okay, Scott. Merry Boxing Day.
Yes.
And a happy Christmas. And we'll see you again on the next episode of It's Just Bodybuilding.